Hello, my dear listeners, and welcome back to Household Drama and Family Secrets. I am Sakina. Today, I have to share a story that will make you question everything you believe about marriage, love, and honesty. This is not about a mistake. This is about a massive, deliberate lie that lasted for 20 years. We all believe our family is unique. We think our love is strong enough to withstand anything. I used to believe that about my husband. I thought we had a happy life, a predictable life. We had stability. We had our children, Ibrahim, Asha, and my Khanis. It was an illusion. If you are listening today, please, I need your support more than ever to tell this devastating truth. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share your thoughts. Your empathy is the only thing that validates the pain I carried in secret. Thank you. Our marriage was conventional. My husband was a good provider. He was predictable. He worked late. He traveled often for business, and he always brought back small gifts for the children. I trusted him absolutely. That trust was the shield that kept the horrific truth from shattering me for 2 decades. I remember those years as being comfortable. We had a beautiful home. My children, Ibrahim, Asha, Khanis, never lacked anything. My husband was a good father, stern, but present. He had his routine, always away on the first week of every month for his business trips. I never questioned it. Why would I? He called every night. I was so busy managing the household, the everyday struggle of raising children, the school schedules, that I never paid close enough attention to the subtle anomalies. I thought his occasional distance was just job stress, the burden of the office. I convinced myself that our quiet life was a happy one. The truth is, I was living inside a meticulously crafted lie. He wasn't just working late. He wasn't just traveling. He was leading a double life. The first clue arrived about 2 years ago. It was small, insignificant, but once seen, it could never be unseen. My husband was away on his monthly business trip. I was using his laptop to pay a bill, something I rarely did. A small file was open on his desktop. It was a property deed. The address on the deed was in a completely different city, a city he never mentioned traveling to. The deed wasn't in our name, it was in his name, and this is where my world tilted. The name of a woman I had never heard of, Naima Khan. My mind went into immediate, frantic overdrive. Who is Naima Khan? A client? A colleague? Why would a client's name be on a property deed with my husband's? Why the secrecy? I closed the file quickly, my hands shaking. I told myself it was a mistake, a business investment, anything but the truth. I couldn't sleep. The husband-wife problems that followed were silent. I became a detective in my own household. I started checking his phone bills, his old credit card statements, and slowly, painstakingly, the puzzle pieces of the last 20 years began to form a monstrous picture. I found bank transactions recurring every month sent to that other city. I found old photo receipts, pictures of my husband with Naima Khan, and in those pictures, there were 2 small children, a son, a daughter. They looked exactly like him. My father's double life was not a theory, it was a devastating reality. He hadn't been traveling for 20 years for his job. He was traveling to his other family. He had built a separate, complete life. My love, my marriage, my family life, it was all based on a profound, unforgivable betrayal. The shock was worse than the pain of losing Kaniz. This was the destruction of my very foundation.
My friends, the initial discovery of the property deed was just the first tremor. The earthquake came when I found the proof, the irrefutable evidence that my husband had been living a double life for 20 years. I eventually found the old phone. He must have forgotten to wipe it completely. There were files, hidden deep within a password-protected folder. My hands were shaking so violently, I almost dropped the phone. When I finally cracked the simple, familiar password, the date of our anniversary, I saw them. Pictures. Pictures of my husband celebrating birthdays, festivals, vacations, not with me, but with Naima Khan and their 2 children. 20 years. 2 decades of our family life built on a foundation of unforgivable lies. The knowledge was a physical pain, colder and sharper than any knife. I didn't scream. I didn't break things. The shock was too great for noise. I simply put the phone back exactly where I found it. I cooked dinner. I waited for my husband to come home. He walked in, cheerful, predictable. He kissed me on the forehead. He asked about the children. I served him dinner. I sat down opposite him. The food tasted like ash. The husband-wife problems were now a silent war being fought across our dining table. I didn't even use the name Naima Khan. I simply asked him, "Tell me, truthfully, what is the most important thing you have forgotten to tell me about your business trips over the last 20 years?" He froze. Just for a split second, the mask slipped. His eyes darted away, his hands tightened around his glass. He tried to lie. He mentioned a failed investment, a tricky client, but I kept my eyes fixed on him. Eventually, he put his fork down. He looked utterly defeated. He confessed everything. The unforgivable betrayal was real. The secret family was real. The details were agonizing. The separate home, the birthdays, the financial deception. I asked him, "Did you ever truly love me? Did you ever truly love our children?" He cried finally. He begged for forgiveness. He said he was trapped. But his tears meant nothing. They were just water. The truth that he had built a second home, a second set of children, funded by the stability of our family life, that was the betrayal I could never comprehend. 20 years. I hadn't just lost a husband. I had lost 2 decades of my life that were built on a phantom. My children's childhood memories were contaminated by this knowledge. This wasn't just relationship drama. This was the destruction of our reality. After the confrontation, the immediate task was the most terrifying one: telling my children. How do you tell your son and two daughters that the father they trusted, the foundation of their family life, has been a phantom for 2 decades? I wanted to protect them. I wanted to lie and say he was sick or that he had just had a brief affair, but the lie was too immense. They would find out eventually. I decided they needed the truth, delivered gently, so they could choose how to process their own pain. I gathered them together, Ibrahim, Asha, and my fragile Kenise. I sat them down, and for the first time, I couldn't look them in the eye. I felt like the betrayer, the keeper of the poison. I started slowly. I told them there was a serious problem, a family secret that couldn't be hidden anymore. When I finally said the words, "Your father has another family in another city," the room exploded into silence. Ibrahim, my son, reacted first, not with tears, but with fury. He couldn't process the betrayal of the father he admired. He shouted, "20 years, mother? You mean every single business trip was a lie? How could he do this to us, to our name?" Asha, my elder daughter, simply went pale. She started weeping silently, the tears falling straight down her face. She felt shame. She felt the immediate destruction of her parents' marriage, the ultimate symbol of stability. But it was Kenise whose reaction shattered me most. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just looked at me, her mother, with cold, profound resentment. She saw this massive husband-wife problem not just as her father's fault, but as proof that family life itself was a lie. The worst damage wasn't the pain of the moment. It was the contamination of memory. Every happy childhood memory, every vacation, every birthday gift from their father was suddenly poisoned by the knowledge that half of his life, half of his heart, was somewhere else. This wasn't just relationship drama. This was an identity crisis for my children. Ibrahim started questioning his career path. Asha questioned her own marriage. The foundation of their world crumbled. I realized then that my husband's 20-year deception was not a single event. It was a vast, spreading poison that had been running through our family life. I sat there, holding my weeping daughters, looking at my furious son, and I felt the entire crushing weight of the unforgivable betrayal. The pain was immense, but the destruction of their innocence was the true tragedy.
The shock subsided, but the moral dilemma remained. What do I do now? My husband, the man who funded this double life, was destroyed by the confession. He offered me everything: his repentance, his full financial control, the promise of absolute fidelity. But he had already taken the 20 years. I faced the ultimate husband-wife problem. If I left him, I would destroy the stability of our children's lives and validate their fear that family life is temporary. If I stayed, I would have to live every day knowing I was sharing my life with a man who could sustain a betrayal for 2 decades. My son, Ibrahim, was the most vocal. "Mother, you cannot stay. His presence contaminates the household. You deserve better than this unforgivable betrayal. Kick him out." I heard the voices of society, the voices of my children, and the voice of my own shattered heart. But I realized my role was no longer just his wife. It was the protector of the family structure, the one responsible for the emotional survival of Asha and Kenise. I made a decision that felt cold, but necessary. I chose to stay, not out of love. The love was severely damaged, but out of duty and strategy. The children needed a father figure, however flawed. The household needed financial stability. I told him the terms were absolute. He would give me full control of all finances. The secret identity, the second life he had created, had to be completely and permanently dissolved. Our relationship would be redefined, rebuilt on a foundation of weary necessity, not blind trust. It was a sacrifice. I had to bury the person I was for 20 years, the trusting wife, and become the constant supervisor. But I did it to minimize the emotional pain and future hardship for my children. This real-life story taught me the most crucial life lessons. I learned that family secrets exposed inflict wounds that last generations. I learned that money doesn't buy happiness, but it can certainly fund a 20-year lie. I want every listener to understand your everyday struggle is real. Your parenthood is challenging, but never underestimate the cost of the small, silent lies. They stack up, they wait, and when they are revealed, they risk everything you have built. We are a family in recovery. We survived the storm, but we are forever changed by this unforgivable betrayal. I hope my personal confession can serve as a warning. Choose honesty. Choose courage. Because the price of family conflict built on deceit is always too high.
The initial storms of disclosure and confrontation had passed. My decision was made. I chose to stay. But the man who shared my bed was not the man I had married. He was a constant, silent reminder of the double life he had funded and sustained for 2 decades. The household was quiet, but it was not peaceful. Every time my husband and I shared a mundane moment, drinking tea, watching the news, I was mentally comparing it to the parallel reality he had experienced with Naima Khan. The simplicity of our family life now felt contaminated. He was broken by the discovery. He offered constant, visible repentance. He tried to reclaim the role of a loving husband and dedicated father to Ibrahim, Asha, and Kenise. But remorse cannot mend 20 years of missed birthdays and fabricated absences. His efforts were sincere, yet the wound was too vast. My role shifted entirely. I was no longer the trusting wife. I became the family CEO. I took full control of the finances, the funds he had risked to finance his secret family. This wasn't revenge, it was self-preservation. I needed to ensure the financial security of my children. I forced myself to set boundaries. Our interaction was transactional. We maintained a civil front for the sake of the household and our children.
especially Kani's, whose own healing depended on seeing her foundation remain intact. But intimacy, true emotional closeness, that died with the lie. I chose duty over desire. Ibrahim, mother, you are sacrificing your own happiness for our stability. We understand the price you are paying. And this is my final heavy lesson to every listener who has faced or is facing a profound betrayal story. You must understand the true enduring scar of deception. The money, the property, the initial shock, those wounds eventually heal. But the real damage is the inability to ever again trust the evidence of your own eyes within your own family. The beautiful picture you had of your life is replaced by the hideous reality of the double life. I pray that no one has to endure the pain of knowing their husband looked them in the eye for 2 decades and lied without blinking. Choose honesty. Cherish your mother's trust, because the cost of that unforgivable betrayal is eternal.